We really appreciate you guys coming out. I am very, very happy at the turnout. I'm glad you are bearing the winter storm with us, so thank you for this last minute little program with us. Well, we'd like to introduce you to the Soil Improvement Program. I know a lot of you are already in there and have a lot of familiarity with it, but what I'd like to just see is just kind of go over any other questions. This is going to help me because, I mean, I'm new. I've started here in March. My name is Tarah Young with the Extension Office. I'm the Ag Educator, and just because it's been a crazy year, I haven't been able to meet everyone. So I'm glad we were able to have this program so I can see some faces and not just talk to you on the phone. So I'm glad you guys were able to come out. So basically, we're trying to do a whole new soil improvement program. We're trying to rebrand it, have new faces, trying to get new information, and that the most important part to that is getting feedback. For me, learning, I need the feedback from you guys. It sounds like most of you have used the byproducts. Can we get a show of hands who have used it? So pretty much everyone. Okay, so I might learn from you guys this time, but this is great. I need this feedback, and I really appreciate it. And hopefully I can help you guys learn a little bit something too, because I have a soil nutrient management background, so hopefully we can kind of learn together on this. But what I'd like to just kind of go over the mission of the Soil Improvement Program to provide beneficial use of industry byproducts to Northeast Minnesota producers with the goal of helping improve sustainability, soil fertility, and crop production. You tell us if we're not meeting that mission. Please tell us that. If we need that feedback of also our customer service as well. So please tell us. So basically with the Soil Improvement Program, we act as a liaison basically between the MPCA, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, and the industries that we serve. We basically are the specialists, so the industries don't have to be. So that's trying to learn this process and trying to learn the best way to utilize these byproducts are going to be the most important thing, because we are very, very lucky and blessed to have all these products so close to us, but if we don't utilize them in the correct way or the best managed way, then it's just going to go for waste. So that's what we're here for. So first I'd like to introduce Becky Haass. She's standing right back there, our ag technician. I'd like her to give a few words about what she does and a little bit about the process of how you can get into the Soil Improvement Program.
Okay, so I'm Becky Haass. I'm the ag technician for Carlton County. I'm the one that comes out and does all your soil sampling. Once I soil sample your fields, I also GIS it, which is the map making system of it, where we can calculate how many acres your fields are. I send the soil samples into AgVise over in Benson, Minnesota. They test for phosphorus, potassium, organic matter, salts, and your pH. If your pH comes back at 6.9 or below, you qualify for the program. Depending on where you live, we work with 4 different companies. We work with Minnesota Power in Duluth. We work with SAPI and SMI in Cloquet. And up in Bemidji, we work with PotlatchDeltic. So I cover about 22 different counties in the Northeast Minnesota. So I do travel a lot, and if any of you need soil sampling done still this year, I test 12 months out of the year, and we like to retest every field about every 6 to 8 years to see where your pH is. So if you would like a retest of your field, you can talk to me afterwards on that. So.
Both of our contact information is on the desk if you haven't gotten that.
Business cards.
Yes, our business cards, as well as I'd like, if anyone hasn't picked up the packet of information, you're probably going to want to follow along, and there's going to be a lot of information, good information I'm hoping, on this packet as well. So, thank you, Becky, and she is essential to our program, so we give her a lot of credit, so we can't do it without Becky, so thank you, Becky. So let's pause everyone have them now. Hopefully it's not too overwhelming. I know it's a novel, but I think it's good information that everyone should at least be familiar with if we're trying to improve our soils here. So, I'd like to introduce, we were going to have 2 industry reps, but we've still been very fortunate to have 1 industry rep. Dan, if you'd like to come up here and maybe say a few words, and do you want to hold up the products or anything, or just have people maybe pass them around, or?
Yeah, we can pass them around.
Yeah,
That's fine. Yeah,
that way we can see what really it is.
Yeah, I'm Dan Menner. I'm an environmental engineer with SAPI. Okay. We've got some samples.
You too.
Most for the soil improvement program, it will be the fly ash and the lime mud. So we generate fly ash in our process through burning bark and through our power boilers, just like ash you would have in a fireplace. You know, when you end up with ash and you throw it on the gardens to improve the soil, it's the same exact concept. We also have lime mud that we generate through the recovery process at the mill. That's an ongoing generation. So we used to, back in the day, we'd landfill all that material. And a number of years ago when we got involved and got working on this soil improvement program, it's become kind of a win-win situation for the mill as well as the community. Because now that's not ending up in a landfill, it's beneficial to the farmers. It cost us a fair bit amount of money to operate that program at Savvy, but again, if we were putting it in the landfill, it would cost us money as well. So we figured this way it's benefiting the community as well as keeping it out of the landfill. So I work pretty closely with Becky on a regular basis, and then we have a contractor, IBP, that does most of our hauling and spreading and those types of things, and we work closely with Jason at IBP as well. So if you have any questions about the program, certainly feel free to contact me or Becky through Becky is fine too.
Do you guys cover all the cost of trucking, or the farmer's paying so much a mile?
The farmers
do you
pay,
cover part of that? Or?
Absolutely, yeah. Yep. Yeah, we pay a good portion to have all of that material moved. Yeah, we spend over $1 million a year on the program. So.
Thank you, and we appreciate your partnership. We wouldn't obviously be here without you, but hopefully we can add something to the equation as well.
Absolutely. So
we appreciate it, and if there's any other questions about that, I know Dan's very, very knowledgeable. We had a tour with him, so very knowledgeable about the product. So we thank you for knowing your stuff.
Thank you.
So thank you. Minnesota Power, I know Ross wasn't able to make it, but is there anything, Becky, any updates or anything that people should know about Minnesota Power products if they're waiting?
Yeah, if you are a Minnesota Power customer, they are slow right now, so delivery is slow, and but they have all your applications, and it's just a matter of time right now. So
very good. So now I'd like to move on to Jeff. I know he's hiding in the back, so I want him to get it up here. Or wherever you want to speak. But he's the one that made this all happen, and he's had to deal with Becky and I, so I apologize, I feel bad. But we really, really appreciate this, and this windbreak. We appreciate everything that you've done, and are being such a loyal person in this whole program. So we appreciate everything that you've done. Please share your experiences with each product, what you've seen over the years.
What I have seen, I think all my neighbors have seen that over the years. It's been a good product. We started with Georgia Pacific and started with some troubles, got them all ironed out, and they got a good product coming out now.
Good, and you have a mix of sappy, ash, and lime, or do you just use lime or just ash, excuse me, with your fields?
In the past, I've been using the straight ash. This past fall, I got some lime ash mix, so it'll be new to me to see.
So we'll have another field day to see how that goes. Hopefully we can see it. Hopefully.
he won't answer my phone call.
Yeah, not anymore. He's done with us.
I know.
FaceTimes.
So you've seen it all. You've seen how it's affected your alfalfa production specifically, because that's the majority of what you're producing is alfalfa?
That is what that product is going to help you is with grass clover or alfalfa. The stuff that we had hauled in last fall, that's on sand ground, so that'll be interesting to see. I was gonna talk to the gentleman from Safi there. They had a few different things there with the sand. Sand, you can use it for filtering water. And our problem with sand is whatever we put in through the top will go down through the bottom. And that we were looking at that bag with the black darker
The degritter?
yeah,
Test material?
binder.
Yep.
Can you say anything about that? What?
Yeah, that's basically, it's washings off of the logs that come in to the mill. So when they come in, we wash all the dirt off of them and then take the bark off them. So most of that is, you know, some bits of gravel, bits of dirt, that type of thing.
Bark.
Bark, a little bit of bark content. So you can open that up and take a look if you're interested.
And on that light ground, sand ground,
Yeah,
that's going to be an interest for that.
this does not have the nitrogen value, so it won't have nutrients in it. But
No, but
as
you
far as
need
a
that
filler
organic.
material or that organic,
You need something in that
yeah,
to hold all those nutrients. in.
yeah, we generate this material on a regular basis as well. So that's
As
ongoing.
much as the ash and lime.
Not as much as ash and lime, but anywhere in the neighborhood of 5,000 to 10,000 tons per year is what we'll generate with that.
Then there was another bag there that was gray, more like putty set up there.
Yeah, that's the lime dregs. So that's very similar in makeup to the lime mud. It's a little coarser, it's a little stickier. So oftentimes that gets mixed together with the lime mud. It's real difficult to spread that as is, so we don't typically send it out as is, but we'll do a mixture.
Just as potent as the lime.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
very similar as the
So
lime.
the problem is spreading it thin.
The problem is, yeah, just the makeup of that material. It's stickier and harder to move. So, but as a mixture, it works really well.
Now I'd like to kind of talk about the information about the byproducts and what I know a lot of you, since you've used it, you've seen the benefits of it, but I just kind of wanted to give a little reminder of why we're trying to do this and what is the goal here. And everything that we do, we should have a goal and see what the financial backing, the gains and everything are. So what I'd like, if you can see on the back of your sheet, you can see how the pH, we have it all nice and color coded for us. So why do we care about soil pH? I mean, you've seen it. You've seen it more than I can tell you academically, and okay, yes, that it improves, but you can see why now. Hopefully that it can kind of click in your brain of saying, now as we start getting lower into those lower pHs, the nutrients that we put out there aren't going to be available to those plants. So you can put as much fertilizer as you want out there, and if your pH is incorrected, the plants aren't going to be able to uptake that. So a very potent visual representation of why we need our pH corrected and why we need to maintain that pH and our overall soil fertility. So when we look at, I know we've kind of talked a little bit about the wood ash and lime, which are our two main products. I just wanted to kind of reiterate that fit the product to your needs, and that's why soil sampling is so important, because you don't know what your needs are until you go out there and sample and you actually get a soil analysis done. So that's fitting which product. I mean, there's a lot of options here, but fitting the product to what your soil needs, because your soil's not going to tell you, and your plants can kind of tell you by the way they look, but and how much yield you're getting off there. But that's why regular soil sampling is very, very important. A little bit of a difference between the wood ash and lime. I don't know if you guys have touched it, or you probably touched it when you spread it or seen it out on your fields, but you could tell the difference in the particle size. The lime is definitely a finer particle, so that is going to be, the soil microbes will be able to break that down and decompose that in the soil faster than the wood ash. If you stick your hand in that bag, the particles are much larger, so that's something that sticks around in the soil for a lot longer, and also with the added nutrients. So actually in one, I know it's a lot of different papers, but in the back here we have the the nutrient composition of each of our products, and I'm not even finding it, so I hope it's in here. So, does everyone know can see what I'm talking about in the back? we're seeing the nutrients. It's a table. I don't know why my packet doesn't have it, but
Yeah,
yes,
Bill.
yep. That table. I know it's a lot of numbers and it really doesn't mean a whole lot to us, but two things I'd like to point out is that there are many nutrients and micronutrients that you don't focus on a lot. You kind of think of N, P, and K, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, and you think you're done. But a lot of those micronutrients that are included in this wood ash are kind of secondary benefits. You don't think about it, but it's kind of a bonus benefit when you see the production increase. The second thing I'd like to talk about is there, right at the end on the right side of the table, you can see the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency's heavy metal ceiling limits. So you can see just how, I know some people are worried about byproducts and what's really in there. We're getting it from an industry. I could be spreading anything on my fields. Number one, the quality control with SAPI would never let that happen. Number two, the constant sampling is going to tell us how low compared to those ceiling limits we're seeing. So it's very safe to be spreading out on your fields. So it's a nice thing for if anyone's concerned, if any landowners are concerned about what you're spreading. I know they like to know what's going out there, so you could honestly just give them that and say it's all below the MPCA limits. So if that's what they're concerned about. So another sheet in there in my novel is right with that sheet should be the effective neutralizing power. It's a table that one, and it's the different industries and the different ENPs, the effective neutralizing power. So basically how people calculate the effective neutralizing power, or the labs I should say, that we go to have this sampled from, it's the moisture contents, it's the fineness of the particle, and it's how much calcium carbonate, which calcium carbonate is what's actually doing the neutralizing of the soil, actually doing the hard, heavy work, the lifting. That's all of those factors combined to make that number. And just because if you see a lower number, that doesn't mean it's a bad. It just means you need more of it, more tons per acre, to raise your pH. So that's how, now to kind of get into how rates are calculated, we use that number to determine how many pounds of ENP per acre that you're approved. So that's all the stuff that Becky and I work on. It's pretty simple calculation, but I wanted to get people to see what we're doing so they can trust us that we're making an accurate decision for your fields. So I wanted to go into a little bit of frequently asked questions. This is kind of what I've been getting and answers that I've also had to find out, especially right when I started. So one of them, how long do I have to wait to see results? I've heard this a lot, and it depends on how you apply it, of course. But you should be able to see the first year, it's kind of, you see a little bit difference. The second year, a lot of bit difference. The third year is when you're actually going to get the highest production. I know that's a long time to wait, but we're farmers, so we're pretty good at waiting, hopefully. So 3 years is kind of when we'll start seeing that highest production, and that's why, even starting, if you're cropping this, if you're doing like corn on corn or something, then you could do 3 years and start soil sampling and need some more tonnage again. So it's definitely specific on what your operation is. If you're doing a perennial grass stand that, your soil's pretty basic, I should say, alkaline, so it's not quite as acidic, you'd see that you maybe need to wait 10 years until you get approved again. So stressing that each field is different, each farmer's different, each cropping system is different. So that's why we're here to help. Another frequently asked question that I've got, is there anything I can do to make it work faster? And a lot of things can help. A lot of things can help get that into the soil, like rain, the soil thawing and unfreezing and things like that. But the best thing that you can do is to incorporate it. That way you're getting it in the soil as quick as possible. You're not waiting for that broadcasted lime and ash to be sunk down into the soil. So anytime that you're renovating a hayfield, anytime that you're looking into doing something a little bit different, or anytime you're thinking about turning that up, this is a great program to kind of jumpstart that and help you in that renovation. What is the best way to spread it? I've heard that a lot. We have a lot of different spreader options. IVP, Jason Williams, he does spread. He does a very very great job with that. We also have other spreaders in the area, so if you need any help spreading, please contact us. We'll get you in touch with the right people. Basically, what we want to do is create it the most even that we possibly can. So that's why usually, like, let's say you're at a 6.7 or something and you qualify for 2 tons. Usually what we try to, you also qualify for 3 tons, just so it can spread more evenly. 2 tons we've seen hasn't been able to spread as evenly. So if you're that low, we'd like to bump you up a little bit so that way it's spread up, or spread the most even as possible. How much nutrients does it contain, and how do I know if I can decrease my fertilizer application? I think this is a really key question of, okay, where's the money? Like, right away, I want to save money. I either want to save money or get more money. So that's that same sheet that you see all the nutrients. And now on this front sheet, you'll see I just put a little table of the potassium availability. I know I talked about micronutrients, but potassium is where the wood ash really stands out. And you can see the pounds per ton per acre on the potassium availability. And now that is only the ash, not the lime. So you look at the different types of ash that we provide. And I mean, look at Minnesota Power. So let's say 39 pounds of potassium. That's equivalent to 60 pounds of potash. So it can really, really help. Especially when potassium stays in the soil, it doesn't leach out. So it's kind of an investment in your future when you do things like that, and something that's a very slow release as well with that wood ash. So that's kind of how you can know if you want to decrease your commercial fertilizer, especially that first year. If you're buying seed and you have a big seed cost, maybe spend a little bit less on that potash. Keep it up in later years, but that can kind of offset some of those seed costs. So that's a nice little bonus. I guess there's a lot of little bonuses. Another thing that I'd like to talk about, and I hope you guys aren't going to be sick of hearing me talk, but what I'd like to point out is that I have 3 soil samples here that they're labeled A, B, and C. And this is, I just kind of wanted to get everyone practicing looking at these things, just so, I mean, they don't know that I'm just filling them full of fluff or anything. So you can see what I'm looking at, and you can see the things that I put most importance on. Now with these soil samples, we get phosphorus, potassium, the organic matter, soluble salts, and the soil pH and buffer pH if the soil pH is low enough to warrant a buffer pH. So basically, as we look at the different soils, phosphorus and potassium is probably the first thing that I look at to see if all the nutrients, besides the wood ash and lime, are all in balance. And you know, when you look at this first one, if anyone wants to look and see, would this apply, or would this qualify for wood ash and lime? Does anyone see the soil pH? So that would not. No, but what could else we do? You know, let's say the farmer's unsatisfied with this. What could we do to increase this field? So we don't qualify for lime and ash. We'll try again maybe in a couple years. What can we do? What are we short on? What's kind of in the low? I'm seeing potassium, and if this is if the farmer's trying to have alfalfa in here, it's probably not. Probably the first year would be probably fine, but going into next year's, you'll see the potassium deficiency. So this year, they're not going to qualify, but putting some potash out there. And the other thing, I know it's a novel, but what I included here is the fertilizer recommendations from the University of Minnesota. My copy is so stained and so folded because I've used it so many times, but this is critical. This is the best thing. You can look at your soil sample. It'll tell you, okay, I'm in this range of potassium, and it will tell you how many pounds per acre of potassium to apply. So I like being just cut and dry, being told. So it's very nice. It's based on soil sample tests, so that's still very, very important. But being able to be led down a specific and path to say, okay, I need this many. You can go to the co-op or anywhere and know exactly how much you need. So I really like this. Hopefully everyone else, or just to understand what I'm doing when you call me and ask, just to understand where I'm coming from. So you don't have to know everything. That's my job. I don't even know everything, but so going back to, let's say, to soil sample B, we're looking at a soil pH of 5.5. We're probably getting very low production there, even if it's grass. We're probably seeing that. And we're getting, you see that number next to it is a buffer pH? That buffer pH, so it wasn't on the first one because the pH wasn't low enough. But this buffer pH, what that means is the higher the buffer pH, the easier the soil pH can change. So let's say, so 6.6 is pretty high. So let's say you had a buffer pH of 5.5, just like the soil. That's going to take probably upwards of 12 tons, depending on what your product is. It's really going to be a tough time changing that. You're going to need more and more product. So that's actually, when I see a buffer pH, that's what we use to calculate rates and how much you qualify for. So that just tells you that it's pretty deficient. We're looking at phosphorus, potassium, those are pretty deficient. Building up those soils, maintaining those. Maybe this was something that was kind of left and abandoned for a while, and then a farmer decided to go out there and try to renovate it. So that's, you can usually tell kind of the situation just from looking at the soil test. It's kind of fun in my nerdy way. So now looking at soil test C, we're seeing a 6.7 pH, and we're seeing higher potassium levels, higher phosphorus levels. What I would generally see is when I see higher phosphorus and potassium, that's usually probably closer to the farmyard because you're probably hauling a lot of manure. You're seeing those higher levels, so you're taking very good care of it. And if you're just thinking that there's just something missing to this, and let's say with this we're having grass. We have a grass legum mix. Probably nitrogen would probably be your key into getting the higher yield bump, as well as this 6.7 that can qualify for about 2 to 3 tons of wood ash. So even if you have higher levels, it's still always good to invest in that piggy bank in the field. So that's something I just wanted to show you guys what I was looking at. I know that's a lot of numbers and a lot of lines and stuff, but hopefully that makes a little bit more sense of the background of what I'm doing, and I'm not just pulling numbers out of thin air. Now that I've kind of covered of how much potassium or how much phosphorus or whatever your crop needs, now what I've done is on the back side of your sheet, the color-coded sheet, these are about the 2 things that I use all the time to do fertilizer recommendations. How much K, or potassium, or phosphorus, or nitrogen, and then what does that translate to the actual fertilizer? Because we know that fertilizer, I mean, we'd like it to be, let's say potash, I'd like it to be 100% potassium, but it's not. So I just wanted to include this as a little cheat sheet for you if you want to cut it out and put it on your fridge. I know it might be a good decoration in your house. But having that just cheat sheet so you can say, okay, 60% potash is 60% potassium. That means 100 pounds. If this says 100 pounds of potassium, that means you put 160 pounds of potash. So very simple calculation. I know people think it's difficult what I do, so I hope I didn't unleash any secrets of what I do. But I wanted you to know what I was doing and for you to kind of see the background of what I was doing. And the last final thing is to maintain and to build your soils, because as we know, it was something like a new piece of ground that we've gotten that hasn't been worked up in a long time, hasn't been taken care of. That's going to require a lot more work, a lot more patience to get through that and keep that up to higher production. So basically, the soil maintenance and the soil building is what we want. You know, a lot of people can calculate the crop removal and say, okay, I know with, just off the top of my head, alfalfa takes off 60 pounds of potassium per ton of dry matter per crop. So that's a lot of potassium that takes off. But if you don't know where you started and you only add that much potassium, then you're not moving ahead. It's kind of spending it as much as you save. So build that, see where you're at. Everything kind of goes back to that, is see where you're at first, and then we can kind of be very specific and help personalize your crop management and your nutrient management plan to your field, your operation. So that's kind of the gist of it. I hope I didn't go into too much detail, but hopefully that makes a lot more sense of when you call me, where I'm getting these numbers from. So I think hopefully that this all kind of comes around and comes full circle of, yes, we need our pH, but it's a lot more than that. You're not going to see the full yield potential if you don't kind of have everything in balance. So hopefully that makes sense. And anything else, Becky, that you'd like? I think are there any questions? Hopefully I didn't talk your ear off or make
What's the salts?
So the soluble salts, yes. Unless, I mean, generally in this area, usually it is more of a saline soil that you'll have a problem. In the drier, more arid, like western, I mean even South Dakota, things like that, you'll have a problem with soluble salts staying in, as well as places like if you're irrigating things, soluble salts can come up in the irrigation. Generally, I haven't, even working here for 8 months, I haven't seen anyone have a problem with it, but...
Drying is hard.
Yes, yeah. So, not generally a problem here, but it'd be kind of interesting to track down if I do see a problem, see what the result is, why is that causing that. So it's kind of like detective work. It's fun to see just on numbers, and then I actually go out to the field and figure out what's actually the cause and what's wrong, so... I'd say I like my job. Any other questions that hopefully I covered everything, but I'm not the one out there trying to produce out here. So I like to see those questions of what you guys are seeing, what problems you're having, and let me know if you have any other questions. All my contact information is on the brochure, my business card. Please contact me. I'd love to get out of the office a little bit and hopefully tromp around in the snow out in the fields.